you with me?
No, Jeff was.
Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would everybody rise for our pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let it be noted that the mayor, Tony McNeil, Gene Kirby, councilman, and Greg Bueller, councilman, are not in attendance tonight. Under old business, approval of minutes, the regular meeting minutes of September 7th, 2023 were provided for review. I need a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 7th, 2023 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Not call the roll, please.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Abstain.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stepnica.
Yes. Motion passes. Audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on an item not on the agenda? Yes, ma'am.
My name's Becky Gordon. I live at 102 South 3rd Court. I just had something that I wanted to maybe propose to the council for consideration for the future. I don't know, a lot of you might be familiar with the loud explosions that was a DOD, I don't remember what they called it. It was practice for something they were doing at the prison. Training, thank you. We live really close to the prison, and I noticed a lot of online concern following that during about that hour and a half. And seeing as I don't believe there's a good way to inform the city about things like that prior, especially since even on social media, I often don't see things for sometimes days after they're posted because of algorithms. I would like to propose something. There's an app called Text My Gov that is an opt-in text messaging information line.
What is it called?
Text My Gov, like Gov for government. And it's basically an app where a city can put out for any citizens to opt in to be text messages in case of things like maybe a prisoner escape, which we've had a few of. And again, because we live so close, we like to know. And things like the DOD training, or even the previous week, there was a helicopter doing circles over our house for a very long time, which had us concerned, or other things, even Amber Alerts or emergency things, shutdowns like that. I know some other fairly close cities utilize that app, and that it's a really good way to inform citizens. And then you don't have that kind of firestorm afterwards going down on Facebook.
So it's like the school app. When they call off school, everybody gets a mass text.
Right, yes. So anyway, I just thought that might be beneficial for you guys to discuss. I don't know if there's a related cost. There probably is some small fee. So that is all.
FYI, they're having a training again tomorrow night.
Thanks.
It was posted on the Facebook page earlier.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention that, and so the Text My Gov thing is a good idea, and we can look into that. I think there's a couple other companies that do similar things, and there's usually a small cost, but we can double check on that. That's a good idea. So the background on that too. So I think they did mention it to our police department, but they weren't super specific about the level of training. So I think it was a lot louder than we anticipated. And, after a little while, I know council members were reaching out to me, and I was reaching out to the chief. So we tried to put something out once we realized how loud it was going to be. So like I said, we knew there was going to be some level of training. We did not know they were going to be blowing holes in concrete walls or anything.
And some people said, oh, the police came by my house. The police, that's an effective way to knock doors all morning. And I know some people on one of the apps even said they were past 4H Road in the southern part, and they heard it.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, there's no way the police can just canvass houses and say, hey, there's going to be loud noises.
Yeah, was that us or was that the DOD who knocked on doors?
DOD went out the day of and said there was going to be training, but yeah, they didn't
We were at church when they apparently knocked doors, so when we
Okay.
got home, we were pretty surprised.
Yeah, it probably made it worse that it was Sunday at noon when people are watching the Chiefs game, and it was a frustrating deal all around. And I think it was a lesson learned on our end that when they say they're going to be doing trainings, we need to ask very specific questions like, what is, are you guys going to be walking around empty LCF, or are you going to be blowing things up? So it was a lesson learned on our end to ask more specific questions.
That's all. Just an observation. So,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Killed two birds with one stone, Tim, if they used those explosives to blow up that beaver dam on 7 Mile Creek.
Yes, I like that idea.
I appreciate your suggestion. Thank you. Next, our former city administrator, former mayor, and now county commissioner is here to talk about the local ad valorem tax reduction.
And
Mike,
police,
you're
chief,
on.
and police chief, Kerry. Thank
And
you.
police chief.
Hey,
That's right.
Kerry,
That's
Kerry,
right.
you look good sitting there. Council members, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm not going to take a lot of time, but there are some things that I wanted to go over with you. Again, as Council President said, I'm Mike Smith. I'm the County Commissioner for District 4, which is my home, which is Lansing, which I'm proud to be. Again, the local ad valorem tax reduction is a thing that's been going on for 20 years. And for me to, before I go any further, the County Commissioner Association put out a film, a short video. It's about 6 minutes. And so I've sent it over to Tim and Ken, and I'd ask that they play that now. Then I'll go down some of the other things then.
The Tale of LAVTR. Our story starts during the Great Depression, 1937 to be exact. Jobs are few. The national economy is in the tank and has been for the better part of the past 8 years. All of America is feeling the pinch of a lagging economy. Kansas has been hit especially hard. The Dust Bowl era has left farmers struggling, and there is a certain uneasiness across the rest of the state because of the national economy. Local governments, particularly those that depend on agriculture, are feeling the pressure. Even in the throes of the Great Depression, counties must still administer elections, record deeds, build and maintain roads, and protect the peace. Likewise, they are mandated to collect property taxes, not just for the county, but for all levels of government. The state of Kansas, however, does have one thing going for it despite the depression and the drought. Sales taxes are recovering. In fact, there is a surplus. And to help local governments ease the property tax burden during this economic struggle, the state legislature introduced a concept that would send excess sales tax dollars to counties to both stabilize and lower the local property taxes. And thus the concept of the local ad valorem tax reduction, or LAVTR, was born. This concept was memorialized statutorily in 1965 in KSA 79-2959 by transferring a percentage of the total state sales and compensating using tax, as well as the local share of cigarette stamp taxes and cereal malt beverage taxes to local governments. Considered a demand transfer, 2 payments were made, January 15th and July 15th, based on the formula set in statute. 65% is distributed based on population, 35% is distributed based on property tax valuations. In the 1970s, other revenue sources to help ease the property tax burden at the local level are introduced. The state takes over collecting revenue from liquor by the drink and other taxes. In exchange, the state agrees to return those funds to the county in the form of various state aid, including LAVTR and the County and City Revenue Sharing Funds, or CCRS. All throughout the 1990s, the state tinkers with the amounts that they send to the counties, sometimes adjusting it up and sometimes going down. In 2001, the amount for distribution in the fiscal year 2002 was set at $27.34 million. In 2002, the amount for distribution in the fiscal year 2003 was set at $26.24 million, less than half of what it was supposed to be. And then the following year, something happened. Welcome to the year 2003. The Kansas legislature voted last year to make a single payment to the LAVTR fund, as well as the County City Revenue Sharing Fund. Those single payments come out to less than half of the statutorily required calculation, but the legislature amended the law to make things work. Then, during the 2004 session, the legislature opted to extend a moratorium on LAVTR payments through the 2005 fiscal year. The 2005 Kansas legislature doubled up, avoiding payments in the 2006 and 2007 fiscal years. And with that, LAVTR was gone. As a result of these actions, between 2001 and 2022, Kansas counties have lost over $1.7 billion in revenue from LAVTR alone. Likewise, they have lost an additional $1.3 billion in CCRS funding and over $400 million in transfers to the County City Highway Fund. In total, over $3.5 billion in revenue that was to be provided by the state has disappeared. Revenue that has been made up at the local level mostly through property tax increases. Fast forward to today, and welcome to 2023. It's been 20 years since LAVTR was last funded. However, on March 28, 2023, LAVTR was openly and readily debated on the Kansas House floor as a potential budget amendment to the 2024 state budget. Today's proposed amendment would fully fund LAVTR for the first time since 2000. Today's vote is not about the myths of what LAVTR is or is not. Instead, it is about true property tax relief, and everyone wants property tax relief. Right now, the House is debating the budget, and that debate has brought forward several amendments. The amendment to fully fund LAVTR for the first time in over 20 years proposed by the House Minority Leader not only passes, but passes decisively by a vote of 83 to 40. With a mixture of Democrats and Republicans voting for the measure from urban, suburban, and rural areas. The amendment enjoys wide support. So why, ultimately, did LAVTR not get included in the budget? It comes down to leadership support. None of the House Majority Party leaders supported the amendment, and there is little momentum in the Senate to move LAVTR funding forward. This narrative must change. It is time that concerned citizens send a message to elected officials advocating for true property tax assistance. But how? First, by leading the discussion. Most Kansans don't know what LAVTR is. They have no reason to know since it essentially has not existed for 2 decades. So we must talk about LAVTR and make it more than just alphabet soup to the average Kansan. Next, we need to educate. In essence, when LAVTR dollars are not returned to the county, we as taxpayers are paying the same tax twice. Once in the store when we purchase the goods, and then again to the county through property tax collections. However, we must be honest about the expectations of LAVTR. It is not a silver bullet that will magically save individual Kansans hundreds of dollars in property tax. However, it will reduce the county and city budget dollars that they can collect dollar for dollar. Finally, become an advocate. We must advocate for why county government should receive LAVTR funds. The purpose of LAVTR is not to fund local government. The purpose is to help offset the property tax burden. Remember, the original purpose of LAVTR, to bring stability and help lower the property tax collections, and advocating for LAVTR means explaining how your county will benefit from the funding to reduce the property tax burden. The journey away from LAVTR took 20 years. We don't know how long the journey back may take, but it is a journey worth making. If you have questions or want to learn more about LAVTR, feel free to reach out to KAC and be sure to check out our website for more tools to help tell your LAVTR story.
Thank you, folks. Just to add on to a little bit, because I think a lot of that is explanatory. Since I've been on the commissioner the last 2.5 years, one of the things that I always wanted to get back on was the revenue we were losing for counties and cities. It's both of us. It's all of us. And it's every city in the state. It's every county in the state that's losing it. So last spring, I had the chance to speak at this association, and my topic was this. and there was, this was out in Hays, Kansas. There were 65 counties present, and most of the counties present there were from like Salina going all the way to the Colorado border. What amazed me when I started talking about that is the questions they had. Those are county commissioners, and I'm talking about 65 different counties. 50% of them did not have a clue what I was talking about. And the reason is because what they just said. It's been 20 years. People come and people go, elected people, and so they never heard of it because it's been kept quiet. So Leavenworth County is making a little ruckus on it. We've been bringing that in front of everybody. So I reached out and asked them to produce a film along with the other members there and start sending out information. Some of it I think some of y'all received. I also recommended, which they passed, is that we reach out to the Kansas League of Municipalities. And as y'all well know, that's what the cities are part of. That is your representation in Topeka. Not only did the Kansas League of Municipalities do it, they made it one of their top priorities. So we're going to see two of the biggest forces trying to get this across to the elected officials. Y'all did and a couple things also. Y'all did a couple months ago, and Tim, I don't know if an individual wrote it in the newsletter or y'all did together, but y'all put out a letter or a comment on LAVTR.
I think that was Mr. Studnick.
Don, it was excellent. It was right on point. In fact, when I got that, I brought extra copies. Sorry, Tim, I had to grab the ones out there. I took extra copies. I took them up to the county because it was on point. That's exactly what we're talking about. So hats off for putting that out there. I'd also recommend that with the legislators getting ready to go back in session, that you might want to think about revisiting that and putting that back out there.
Are they open?
What's that?
Do you feel like they're open to that discussion?
I'm getting ready. You're doing a good job. Just keep going. Now you threw me off, Gary. Thanks a lot. You must be an old principal. You must be an old principal or something. I just don't know what this is. A couple things that I took away from it, and if I miss it, Gary, just bring it back up because I'm getting old. A couple things I took away from it. It's been going on 20 years. Some of y'all weren't even here. Some of you aren't in politics. Some of you probably didn't care. But now that it's affecting us in property tax in the state of Kansas, it's top on the issue. The other thing is, it's a state law. It is a state statute. By statute, they have to fund this. Now, what they've done is they've kept putting it off and kicking it down the road. And I'm telling you, it doesn't play well for everybody, and it's against the law. If Topeka, and don't get me wrong, there's some good representatives and good senators out there that support this and are just good people. But if you're not going to follow the law, then why in the world are you pushing this down and trying to make us do it? It's got to be one. It's got to be good for everybody. And that doesn't. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, or knucklehead. You've got to follow the law as it is written. Again, I was mentioning Leavenworth County lost $3.5 million last year, and when I was my second year as city administrator 20 years ago, I got a notice that they were going to take our city of Lansing's away, and that was $60,000 at the time, somewhere in that area. Now, back then we were about half the size. We didn't have all these businesses when we put in Main Street, things like that, so our taxes were very limited. So taking $60,000 away from us for our roads and bridges was very, very hard to overcome. In fact, of all years, I think it's the only time I recommended a increase in the mill levy because we had to fix the roads. Again, I've spoken to. I had lunch with Representative Dave Bueller. I don't know if he ever showed up. I asked him to be here, but I had a long talk with him, and y'all know he's our rep for Lansing and a little part of Leavenworth and stuff like that. Great guy, and he's very open. But like most people that just got elected, he wasn't totally familiar with this. I can't say he approves of it or will go that way, but I would think just from the conversation we had, he's got a better understanding of the frustrations from cities and counties. I did speak to Jeff Pittman, and Jeff Pittman was one of the ones that voted for it. So it's what you're saying. I don't care what party you're involved in. Everybody sees this as a win-win, and it's something that must be done. I guess the other thing we could do is coming up. I know the city used to do it. Leavenworth County has breakfast and legislative breakfast, and we bring people in and we ask them the questions, the hard questions. I don't know if y'all still doing it or not, but I know we did it for years, and we'll be doing it again this year. It's one thing you should think about. That way you can ask them where they stand on this issue. The League of Kansas Municipalities made this a priority, and they're willing to take a phone call or any kind of information. what I asked them to do, and they didn't have, is I said, I'm speaking to Lansing today, and I'd sure like to have what they lost. They didn't have those numbers. But I think from talking to them and them kind of, they'll probably have it next time you ask. Let's put it like that. I'd also say that Lansing, up to y'all folks, I'm just presenting. Let your legislators and anybody listen to you write a letter telling you support this and that we can do it. You could have Tim or Tony or whoever, Tim would think. I think that's very important because what I see here is that if we don't get the public involved, because a lot of folks don't know what it is. I can go out there right now and ask people what this is. If we don't get them involved, there's never going to be enough conversation between them and our elected officials in the Capitol to get this passed. And this is just, and once you tell them, it's like a no-brainer. The other thing I talked to you about is when these people are up for election, first of all, when you have your breakfast coming up, you need to ask them, my opinion only, do you or do you not support LVTR? And don't say, well, I'll get back with you. No, you've had 20 years to get back to us. Do you support it? Don't hee-haw around it. You know, tell us yes or no. And let the people know why you don't or why you do. And the other thing I would add, and I'm curious, I missed your question a while ago, I'm sorry. The other thing I would say is every senator and representative is up for election in 2024. The voters can make a difference, just like what's going on with the elections now, and the county, I mean the city and the schools. They can make an election, but if we don't get out and talk to them and have a conversation with them, we're going to be back here. This is the best opportunity in my 40-something years as a public servant for all the people in this county and the city that we have a chance to get this back in. And I had one gentleman speak to me, and he said, well, you know, because we talked about we didn't want to do it, but we'd hate to file a class action suit because we just feel that strong about it. And he said, well, you can't do that. And I said, you wouldn't win. And I said, well, that's what you said about the schools 20 years ago, too. And how did that work out for you? But the person that really is kicking this in the bucket, and I'll tell you, is a Kansas House Speaker, Dan Hawkins. He calls this a slush fund. He's down in the Wichita area. And he's the one that can control, because a lot of times when you get in the speaker, you vote for who the people in your party tell you to. I don't believe in that. I can tell you right now, I voted for Democrats, I voted for Republicans, I voted for Independents, I even wrote in Donald Duck one time because I didn't like who was out there. So I will vote whoever's going to help make this state and the city and the county run go better. But he had the nerve to say, and you might have seen it in the write-up, that he doesn't trust the city and counties because they call it a slush fund. Well, let me tell you, Dan, I guarantee the people that are sitting in those chairs and sitting at the county levels all across this state know better what the people are thinking than people sitting up at the state all the time. So I don't like that. If you want to talk about a slush fund, let's talk about the $2.5 billion revenue that you've got sitting up there that you don't have plans for right now that's exceeded. You want to talk about revenue neutral, state, why aren't you revenue neutral? You want to talk about revenue neutral? Give us our money back. We could be revenue neutral, but we can't do it right now because we've got so many bridges to do. And so this is kind of really frustrating, as y'all probably can tell. So what I'd ask you to do is think about, and I'll answer any questions if I can, is think about composing a letter and making sure the representatives know how you feel about it, if that's the way you feel about it. And if I can answer any questions now, folks, thank you for letting me speak to it. If I can answer any questions, I'll be glad to. Carrie, did I hit on that one or did I miss it that you asked me?
No, you got it.
Okay.
You got it. Thank you.
If there's no questions, then I will thank you for your time and let me speak. And it's good to see all of you. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
I don't know if
And Mike, I do got one question.
Yeah,
that video, is it on the county website?
It's on, you can go to that organization. In fact,
Okay.
Kent got it. They made that back at, the summer, about 2 months ago, because we wanted to spend the funds to get it done professionally so we could send it out. When you go on that site, and I can get with you later, Jesse, on the site, they've got a lot of things on there. We get a letter every thing. We've got a couple people up in Topeka that fight for the county. They're hard to fight for the county to do things. But in turn, they're also working with the League of Kansas Municipalities, too. I just think it's a win for everybody. So, folks, good to see you. Thank you.
If you guys are okay with, is there consensus? Do you want me to talk to the mayor about writing a letter, or do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, yes,
Definitely.
by all
Absolutely.
means.
I'd say put that video on the city website, too.
Do you want us to take action on that tonight, Tim, or?
I
you
feel
wanna
like
wait?
if there's consensus, I can coordinate with the mayor and Commissioner Smith, and we could do something. It seems like there's consensus.
Yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
I'll entertain it.
Yeah.
We probably we have to do a motion.
I don't
No?
think we need a motion.
Consensus?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Sounds good. Thank you, folks.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
I was just wondering, so can you tell us where that money
Go ahead and
has
step
been?
to the mic.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Can you tell us where the money has been going?
Okay. Where the money usually goes to is it's supposed to offset property tax. And by offset property tax, because that's what the statute says, offset property tax. But what it does is enable you to fix the streets and bridges and things like that, so you don't have to double charge somebody. And that's where the money goes to. Bottom line is, and we had someone ask the other day, and we passed a resolution 3 months ago. People say you'll never use it for that. We've got a resolution on the Loveland County that said we will do this to reduce property tax. If we had that money back, we would be revenue neutral. This is exactly how far we're off.
But so if it hasn't been paid in 20 years, where has it been going?
At the state.
State.
It's a slush fund.
State's got it.
So the state's just using it however they want? Okay, that's what I was wondering.
And I think what Mike said was it's still sitting in a big pot. Is that what you, it's like 2.3 billion
Yeah.
is sitting there. Billion, not million. That's a lot of money.
It's the money. Thank you, folks. Good questions.
It's not the Patrick Mahomes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Couldn't resist.
let's move on to new business. First item under new business is the hunt conditional use permit at 104 Daisy Street. The applicant is requesting the approval of an in-home daycare. This property is classified as single-family residential. The applicant is licensed through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment with a maximum capacity of 10 children. The UDO requires a conditional use permit for any in-home daycare with more than 6 children. The Planning Commission voted 6-0, there was 1 absent, to recommend approval. So I guess I need a motion to approve or disapprove the conditional use permit application for 104 Daisy Street.
I move we approve the conditional use permit for 104 Daisy.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second to approve. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, so once it's approved, there's been some confusion in the past on these. Is it permanent, or do they have to come back every so often?
Conditional use to go for 5 years.
Every 5 years.
Yeah, they gotta come back.
Okay.
Okay. It's a special use, I think, is the one that gets confusing. If you get a special, it's 1 year and/or complaints.
Okay. Thank you.
And so I was reading all the checklists. I was reading all the stipulations, and the Hunt family have no issues with the city statutes, the limitations, and everything in place. Otherwise, they wouldn't be asking for an exception to the rule, basically. Is that right?
If I understand you correctly, yes. They're abiding by everything the city has currently. They just got caught in kind of a weird limbo between what the state only will grant a license at 10 children. Mrs. Hunt has told us that she does not have 10 children in her home. She has less than that, but she cares for infants under 2, which as somebody with 2 under 2 a couple months ago is very valuable service. But because just because of where the number that she does have, she has the license from the state. She had to come get a conditional use permit. So
Were the neighbors notified?
yes, the neighbors were notified. We have received 0
Zero. Okay.
communication from anybody. So
Yeah, that's going to be my next question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
It looked like they had a big enough driveway, and there should be enough room where there's no congestion.
yep. Again, no complaints. She has been in operation for a number of years, and the city staff has not received any complaints at any point.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Is that it on discussion? gentlemen? Okay, Tish, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica,
Yes.
It was unanimous. Okay. Ahead of myself. I apologize. All right. Next, under new business are salt prices for 2023-2024. Leavenworth County has again solicited pricing for bulk purchase of rock salt. The quantity of the bid tabulation includes material from Leavenworth County, City of Leavenworth, City of Basehor, City of Tonganoxie, and the City of Lansing. Need a motion to accept the bid of $58.74 per ton from Central Salt, LLC of Lyons, Kansas, in cooperation with Leavenworth County.
So move.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this item?
I think that's the same price we paid last year, wasn't it?
It's slightly,
$58.
slightly, yeah, right around there. It's
Right around
slightly higher, but we were very pleased to see the price
Yeah.
did not
That's
suffer the same as a lot of other.
Yeah, considering inflation, yeah.
I think it's funny. Last night I was sitting at a forum and people were talking about Leavenworth, Lansing, and Tonganoxie working together. Here's a prime example of it.
And here we got an example. Okay, any other discussion, gentlemen? Okay, if not, please call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes,
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
motion passes. All right. Next on the agenda is the Center Drive improvements. Project 2023-04 bid results. If the council chooses to proceed with the project, then acceptance of the low bid and direction for staff to proceed with the bid award and necessary adjustments. So, need a motion to accept the low bid from Lina Weaver Construction for $535,310.45 with a 5% construction contingency and direct staff to proceed with the project and necessary budget adjustments.
So move.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have a question. Mr. Lionel Weaver's bid is, and I guessed, and I did the math and I was right, $250K less. Is this going to be something that's going to come back now, Mike, where we're going to be hit with additional cost for this and then additional cost for this, so we're going to be right back to plus, or was everything included in this? Because then we broke out the next discussion as number 6, the street creek poles and so forth. So your estimate was around 785, and the other bids were well over 600, and then we have this one way down at 535. So am I missing something?
There's quite a range in bids. You can see them at the top of the sheet. Lexico, the other near local, was, only about $60,000 or $50,000 more. But we don't anticipate that we're going to have anything outside of the usual on this project. Line Weaver's been a very good company that we've worked with on many projects, and
It's not unusual for him to be significantly low, and I love it.
well, they do benefit from less mobilization costs since
Correct.
they are currently located.
Yep.
And so
I like that.
I can't speak for what went into their bid other than we went through the bid process by the purchasing manual, and this is the result. We are comfortable with their work that they provided to this point, and is our recommendation to proceed. If we do proceed, then that moves us to the next item, and these guys can talk about the poles that we are obligated to provide once we do this.
Didn't he do the our improvement along DeSoto there,
Yes,
at the corner of Ida and all that from Eisenhower all the way down, and the sidewalks and all that good stuff?
he was the general
Yeah,
contractor for that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Same, yeah. So I know it's going to be good. That was just my only question. Was the gap was so large? I'm like, maybe because he's local, maybe because he doesn't have near the overhead or something. But I just want to make sure that we're not missing something on this, and then we have to come back.
You probably, if you were, the time he had to come back to us because of all the rock.
That's it. He's going to find rock.
We're not digging those deep of holes on this one.
Yeah, that was almost a one-time thing, wasn't it?
So that was like my first month here. So
Yeah,
that was like
yeah.
8 years ago,
Right,
a long
yeah.
time ago.
That was when there was only like 5 borings done, and,
Right.
and,
It was a weird
and
situation.
they just actually hit the right spots that didn't have rock.
Yeah. He was very justified coming back.
Yes.
Yes.
Are we gonna have any additional charges for inspections and, oversight that's required as well? Or does this include all that as well?
This project is a locally administered project with local funds, and we provide the construction observation with city staff. We're not contracting for any inspections with this one, with a different entity.
And have we already finished the design and engineering?
Yes, yes. The engineering is complete.
If you can, I think the council knows, but just to clarify generally what all this entails.
So this is the, as we discussed before, this is the removal of the islands on Center Drive, the removal of the existing light poles and fixtures on Center Drive, and the replacement with what these guys will demonstrate. And we had a selection committee to come up with the new, and we're moving them all to one side, and so that's primarily what it's going to do. There will be some excavation for the light poles, but the majority of the work is the removal of the islands. Oh, and we do improve or increase the size of the Center Drive entrance at 4H.
Entrance
Yes.
and exit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So
that's
now
correct.
18-wheelers can actually get in.
The turning movements
The
that we're
intent of Center Drive.
yeah the
Amazing how that happens.
What about the bike lanes?
well, we are going to stripe it for bicycle lanes, but there's some ongoing discussions that we're having about that in reference to the pavement condition. So we will likely revisit that, but that's a kind of a different.
Yeah, and you bring up that good point though, and just managing expectations. So I mean, this does not include an overlay right now,
Right.
because we don't want to do, hundreds and hundreds of $1,000 overlay right before TSC or exactly.
Yeah.
So that's part of the thought process. So
Kind of like Eisenhower intersection, they didn't do the main layover until they were done with everything.
yeah,
That's why they did that.
but so I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware. I mean, it's not going to be brand new asphalt for most of the area.
They won't be able to save those monument signs at each end, will they?
Not in its current configuration.
It's probably cost a lot of money.
Okay, any more discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes,
Mr. Studnicka.
Yes.
motion passes. Item number 6, purchase of stress-crete poles and King luminary equipment. Stress-crete poles and fixtures were selected by a subcommittee of the City Council for use in the upcoming Town Center project. Need a motion to authorize the purchase of the 48 stress-crete poles and King luminary equipment in the amount of $199,825.20.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Are these three, do we have 48 that are being replaced, or are we adding some?
No, 48 is the necessary number to achieve the lighting design. And again, Manny and
Okay.
Matt from Stresscrete have come in And they're actually bringing one of the King luminaires that was decided upon by the thing, and they wanted to do a little demonstration, if possible, to kind of show you what the tops of the new poles are going to look like.
Those are some big lights.
Once they go up, you won't be able to tell. Yeah. It's because it's sitting on the ground.
Yeah. Is there any questions in sense of basically what we're providing, or do you guys have any questions on
What's the
what is a
height?
concrete pole or
What's the height on them?
18 foot on
18
the
feet.
pole? So of course you're gonna have that over 18 foot. So it's
The
gonna
base
be
of that will be 18 feet
No,
off
the
the ground.
pole's gonna be 18 foot, and then that's gonna be on top of the
Thank
18
you.
foot.
What's the expected life expectancy of the poles?
The poles, so we actually offer a lifetime warranty on those poles. So basically, over the years of testing and basically working with concrete, we basically got a superb concrete mixture with some additives that basically we can provide basically no resistance or no anything that can compromise that pole with Mother Nature. Basically, concrete basically spalls with icing, de-icing, and basically freeze and thaw. So basically, with the additives that we add, basically that doesn't allow that concrete to expand and contract when we have our winter times. So basically, it freezes and thaw. And then also the spinning process basically adds compressive strength of that concrete mix. It basically densifies that mix, really sturdy, or basically hardens it more than just your sidewalk, your concrete foundations. The minimum that we guarantee from a manufacturing perspective on the compressive strength is 8,000 psi. So that's more than a sidewalk or foundation that basically gets built. So you're getting a basic product that's basically set it, forget it, don't ever have to touch it ever again.
What's the expected repair and maintenance on the line?
So on the light fixture, we offer a 7-year warranty, but with LEDs, that's basically over the life expectancy of basically 100,000 hours of use. So basically, if you guys have the light fixtures on from dusk to dawn, and then past that, or even throughout the day, then of course you're going to limit the life expectancy of that fixture. But if it's only used for, let's say, 6-7 hours at night, or whatever the case could be, then you're going to have a 15-20-year basically life expectancy overall compared to the 7-year warranty. Of course, the one thing on LEDs that's going to probably fail the quickest is basically they got electronic drivers in there. So even though you have, let's say, an electronic driver inside that fixture that fails, you can replace it basically at a minimal cost, and then you still got the LEDs, which should last you basically about 15-20 years, depending on the use.
What's minimal cost today?
Minimal cost today for the
If
drivers.
if we had to replace one today,
Man, you have to put them in the spot. I would say you're probably looking at about maybe $200 is shooting up my head right now for a driver, give or take. But like I said, they shouldn't basically fail. It's just basically we got a 1%, less than 1% failure rate on these electronic drivers that we use.
over the 7-year warranty.
Well, just in general, from all the drivers that we basically utilize, basically, and we test them. We do a lot of testing, and basically that's whenever they go out the door, that's the percentage of like a customer complaining, like we give you guys your product, and then 3 months later you say, hey Manny, 48 fixtures are not working. So based on every project, we got less than 1% failure rate on those drivers.
I'd also like to mention Stress Creek's in Atchison,
Yeah.
so it's a lot easier to get a hold of somebody when you know who they have to drive through when they're going to the legends. They have to come through our
Right.
So
Are we going to put these on any type of timer, or are they
currently we
light
have
sensitive, or
the
what?
plans are to replace the same system we have now. We have dusk to dawn sensors on our 2 transformers that are out there now. So yeah, our lights they're going to have a dusk to dawn sensor, and it's going to be a one sensor for the whole street as opposed to having a sensor in each pole. Now this one looks like I may have a sensor, but our system that we're getting ready to put in is going to have one sensor on each of the 2 transformers that we have on Town Center now. There's one at the north by the bank and one at the south by Sonic.
So each side of the street is going to have its own basically photo cell.
Yep.
Dusk to dawn. Another thing to add from the maintenance perspective, like how we designed these fixtures, and of course, like hail can happen based on we got.
That was
kids.
my question. Hail.
So 2 things, and if you guys want me to take it apart, I can. It's pretty simple, but the LED engine is basically, well, I guess I can show you as well, right? Yeah. So the globe is independent from the LED engine, so there's 3 screws on this casting right here. So, take out the 3 screws. I hope nobody's timing on this.
Need a drill?
Being recorded.
You're doing
We're
just
12
fine.
insurance.
You'd be doing this at the top of the bucket truck, right?
Oh, correct.
Actually, likely we would do this out of a telehandler, and we'll talk about that in about a year or two.
What?
Our telehandler, currently wastewater has a telehandler that has a bucket.
It's
Like
like
an
a
off-road.
telehandler, it's like a forklift with an extendable boom.
Gotcha. Thank you.
It's got you guys have a bucket attachment for it.
Yeah, it's got a man box that'll reach 26 feet. So there's your globe. So basically, if somebody decides to shoot it with a BB gun, or basically, well, now you got more protection because you got an aluminum top in there, so it might get dinged with hail. But basically, if for some reason this gets broken, you can replace it without having to replace the whole fixture. That would actually eliminate basically a lot of costs down the road.
Okay.
Another thing that we have in there, and like I said, we did photometric analysis and with the engineer, and we decided that 60 watt is basically what needs to be used for this, based on the adequate spacing and all that. So one thing that we added to this fixture inside this door right here. So there's no photo cell. Typically, this capital, what we call a capital, there's so we got a little wattage selector, so it's a little click that has 9 settings. So it's out at the lowest setting right now. So if I go, so that it's going to be 60 watts right now. So then if for some reason you got customer complaints or citizen complaints that basically, hey, that's a little too much light. You don't have the app, but you can actually do it at the touch. You can control this light, basically dial it on 10% increments, basically. So you can still adjust it, and you don't have to basically call me in your man and say, hey, I need a new driver to lower the wattage. It's already done there by that little selector thing.
That's as high as it goes, right?
Say that again?
That's as high as it goes?
60 watt, yes.
That's what the 100,000 hours is based on, 60 watts.
Correct, yes. Yeah. And then it has a little chart in there too inside the capital that tells you basically kind of approximate what the wattage is if you basically knock it down 1 notch, what that wattage is going to be. I don't know if you want me to say this or not, but I was thinking. Can we go outside for a second? So I know that with all the new poles down there and everything, with all the GFIs, the plant holders and all that, we've elected to not do anything decorative-wise because of the maintenance aspect and all that. But us working with cities, we know that way basically now coming Christmas time, you don't want to put any plant holders and banners, but maybe you want to decorate that basically with some garland or something and basically put some Christmas lights. I know you didn't want to add anything to the pole, but me thinking, I was like, we don't have anything inside this hole right here besides our wattage selector and the driver. We can actually add a little GFI plug, and this capital has a notch right there that you can basically put your electrical cord coming out of it, and you can do your Christmas lights if you ever wanted to. If not, you don't have to use it, and I'll add that at no cost, just so you guys can have it there, just in case something happens and you guys want to
We like that.
show off.
Yep.
Bonner Springs, Kansas does that. Bonner Springs down here, they put icicles on their lights.
Is there a reason I shouldn't like?
On the receptacles on there.
So like in the matches, like they put all the Christmas wreaths around the
Right.
poles and all that. They got banners and more stuff. But I'm just saying, like, I don't want you guys to regret your decision down
Yeah.
the road. Oh, we don't have anything, and now we gotta basically put new outlets or something.
They're saying, go big or go home.
Well, I think we had spoken about it a little bit. I know we were hesitant to do banner arms, but I think regarding the outlets, I think is Mike still here? I thought someone was saying like 15 or 20 years ago when we would do Lansing Days down there, I think like all of the vendors would plug in everything to the outlets on our poles, and it would constantly trip. Is that accurate from what
Yeah,
we
those are
spoke about?
ground mounted outlets. These,
No,
And there are
you
some
probably
instances
put a
where
lockbox
the base
on
of the pole will actually put, say, a large 30 amp outlet
Yeah.
on certain ones for
Yeah.
They have it on several things, like the Million Art Festival and
Yeah.
things like that, where they plan ahead for
Yeah.
events like that. They'll have big outlets.
I think our thought process at the time was, I mean, if it's for Christmas lights or something, I don't think that would cause any issues. But I mean, if we had Lansing Days or some type of event on Center Drive and people were plugging in, pick something.
The good news is these would not be accessible.
Yeah, those are going to be.
Yeah.
They're gonna be how many feet up
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
18 foot.
Yeah. So the normal vendor's not gonna shimmy
Yeah.
up.
That's a good
They're not
point.
even gonna see it.
Yeah, they're not even gonna know.
It's gonna be inside.
So that's your guys' secret, you don't even have to advertise it to the citizens. Stop it.
Being recorded.
Being
recorded. Hey, but he just mentioned something about putting the extra power wattage at 30 watt or above at the base of the poles or some of the poles. But why wouldn't we do something like that if we are talking about potentially in the future?
We've had that, and we've really struggled with that because we've had vandalism, that then it knocks out the circuit, and we've had overloads when we've done other stuff. So
Okay.
So here's one comment I have is because Atchison, how we've done it is basically we got two different types of basically GFI outlets or basically gang boxes and covers that we can do. People destroy those because we got a weatherproof, it's just a little basically open and it basically shuts once you let it go. It's not protected at all, people take the lids out, looks like crap. We got a good customer in Wisconsin, City of Appleton, that they actually take good pride in what they do, and they actually, we just provide the gang box, they put their own outlet in there, but they put a metal, basically what we call an in-use box, and they actually padlock it. So nobody can use it. And of course, is there vandalism to happen, but that's more protected than just the regular thing. So just throwing it out there, there's options, but
Yeah.
I missed earlier, what's that glass made of?
this is acrylic, so it's pretty,
Acrylic?
pretty
No.
tough acrylic. So,
And what do you say about the hail?
well, now, of course, hopefully it comes straight down to basically the aluminum, but
Okay. Have you had any issues with vandalism on that or replacement?
for us to replace it,
Yeah.
no, it's not a problem. The one thing is, of course, like if somebody wants to shoot a BB gun or something. or
You said that twice now. Quit giving people ideas.
I'll tell you this. So I had a customer that basically was doing a new project, and they wanted to know because they wanted glass or they wanted acrylic, but they didn't know the resistance of how tough it was. So Manny comes outside and brings one of our fixtures and sets it on the ground, and then we got some big landscaping rocks, and I'm standing, I don't know, 15, 20 feet out, and I'm just throwing rocks at it, and it's just bouncing. One of them almost hit me in the head because it bounced back. It took me 15, 20 tries with probably palm-sized rock to break that globe, basically. So it's a pretty hard material. Is it indestructible? No, I'm not telling you that by no means. Put it on record.
Got it under warranty, right?
Huh?
It's under warranty.
Well, just like the poles, I told you they're under a lifetime warranty, but it doesn't cover reckless driving either. So. We're basically big semis going through and taking a a narrow turn and basically wiping out the pole too.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
There's
We're not doing this until we get that overlay and we get the road widened and we get everything done. That's going to be like the last thing we do is the poles, right?
no, the poles are part of this project. In order for us to remove all the islands, we have to take the poles that are existing in the islands and we're moving them to the side of the road.
Yeah.
And these are the poles that are going on the side of the road.
But what I'm saying is the road is completely widened and we're not going to have problems with it.
Yeah, the islands will be removed.
That's my
Yeah,
point.
right.
Those aren't going in until we get that entire road done where 18-wheelers can get in and get out.
Right.
Obviously.
Yes,
Right.
that's all part of the same project.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. That's like the last thing we put in is the lights. Okay.
Andy, let me ask you, the acrylic right there, I look at that and I think about the sun hitting it and maybe fogging it up like a headlight.
No, good question. So over the years, of course, and you've seen like high pressure sodium lights, you have your orange kind of lights, street lights, basically on all downtowns. So high pressure sodium lights and then the UV rays didn't actually help acrylic globes, basically lasted they yellow the globes and make them brittle and not look so good. Over the years, basically companies that we work with, they've actually, like everybody, evolved their acrylic material and basically use UV protective coatings like sunscreen on them, and basically they're more resistant to
where are they located up next, so we can go see them? You have these up in Atchison.
So the concrete, we manufacture concrete poles out of Atchison, Kansas.
Oh, you don't have any up there?
Yes.
Do you have any at the college?
Yes, there's some different fixtures, we got some going up Second Street.
Second
Right.
Street?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
the
all over
second
the
street
place.
to the college is all fixtures and poles.
Yeah.
Down by the
All the
river
way
road,
up through main
Up by the
campus?
river.
River
Down
Road?
by the river road, all the way up commercial, going west of town on commercial, past like Willie's and all that through town.
They
So-
redid all that, those are your lights there?
So all the way up through the main corridor of campus, those are,
To the campus is concrete poles and our fixtures. In the
Right.
campus is
There's metal, they got some
Okay.
metal poles, and some of them are ours, some of them are not.
okay,
But all the way up that Second Street corridor going to the campus is.
yeah, they look great.
You know, 2 years ago, I think
Yep.
that's when it was done, yeah.
And some of the poles even on the river date back to that development of the riverfront. That's been, yeah, it's long. Before I
Yeah, that was before 2000. Okay.
Any other questions?
All right, Mike, you've lost control of this, Mike. Clearly lost control of this thing, Mike.
Gentlemen, I believe we have a motion and a second on the floor.
All right, is there any other discussion? Okay, Tish, please call the roll.
Mr. Gardner.
Yes.
Mr. Major.
Yes.
Mr. Garvey.
Yes.
Mr. Clemens.
Yes.
Mr. Brungard.
Yes.
Mr. Studnicka.
Yes.
Okay. Item number 7, engineering services for the 147th Street box culvert. The City Council authorized replacement of the 147th Street box culvert in the 2024 budget. Need a motion to accept the proposal and execute the supplemental work agreement with Manesh in the amount of $31,350.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes. This is from Banesh. Is this same, company as the line item number 8?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Down there, you've asked for money twice.
We'll
Are they
get-
here?
We'll get, yeah.
Ben is just here to answer any questions you may have. They're actually two separate items. One is the,
I know, but I
one-
don't want to say yes on this if we're gonna run into the same issues we're gonna run into on the next one.
They're two separate.
but that is a fair question. I'll let, if you guys, anybody want to, if anyone wants to come up and talk to them.
One's the engineer.
Do we want to handle the first one?
Mr. Gardner brings up a good question. So, I don't know if you
I don't
guys
deny
want.
that. He always asks good questions.
So I don't know if we want to rescind a motion and second on number 8 and then go to number 9, or
We're on number 7.
Seven.
Number 7 is clear.
7 and number 8 then.
Number 7 is clear.
There are, just to make a point of clarification, this is design services, not inspection
There you
services.
go.
So they are different functions. This is more just in the preparation of the plans and specifications for us to bid this.
Okay, then let me ask this, is there any chance of them coming back and asking for more money on this issue?
Rob Cruson with Benish.
Yeah.
I'm glad to answer. We never like to come back before a body to ask for more money.
Well, you've done it twice on them.
And we'll speak to that, obviously. The only reason that we would need to come back is if something changes, so if staff decides to extend the project or do something beyond the scope. So we don't anticipate that on this particular project, but that would be the only, I can't promise you that we won't on that, but we think this is pretty clear cut on the design of the box. So the other project that we'll speak to is the construction where we're out there, we have less control over the duration of that because we're just there when the contractor is. This one, we have the control here, right? So we should.
Why would you come back for more money?
On this
issue?
On this issue? Yeah.
That's what you're asking,
Yeah,
right?
If they change the scope, right? So if something changes, that we decide that maybe we have to replace another pipe someplace else on the project. We don't think that is the case here, but the scope of the work would have to change. That'd be the only way we could come back to you, not for the same item of work here.
Who changes the scope? You do?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah, it's something we have to dictate a scope change. We've typically on a design, especially on a box culvert, we don't anticipate that. And we've actually worked with them and we brought another item to their attention before we even prepared this proposal to include a pipe crossing for wastewater. We figured while we're out there, we're going to also put a pipe crossing for wastewater. So,
Thank you.
Good questions, Kevin. Thank you.
You say in here supplemental work agreement, have they done some work and you're adding to it?
yes, this originally we had the box culvert and the roundabout in the same project. And because we don't have funding for the roundabout and the box culvert is in need of repair sooner than later, we are splitting the roundabout. We're splitting the box culvert out, so this has become its own independent project. So it's just we say a supplemental because we already have a contract with Benish, so now we are putting into place the design and construction documents for the box culvert as its independent project.
This is the original ask for this service.
Yes, for this split out service, yes, that is correct. I mean, they did the conceptual stuff for us when we put together the roundabout, and they did a lot of work for that, but we never got to the let's go build this phase, so we never actually prepared the construction drawings, and that's what we're doing in this one, which is, again, if this was the roundabout, this would be even a different number, but all we're doing at this point is the box culvert.
And again, this is the design phase of it. It's not overseeing anything else.
Again, and this is going to be administered by the city with 100% city funds, so we're going to take care of inspection services internally.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, call the roll, please.
Mr. Gardner.
Yes.
Mr. Major.
Yes.
Mr. Garvey.
Yes.
Mr. Clemens.
Yes.
Mr. Brungard.
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes. Yes.
All right, item number 8, additional construction and inspection services for the K7 and Eisenhower project. The City Council approved the initial contract with Benesh for the construction, engineering, and inspection for the K7 and Eisenhower project for a total of $109,000, $109,650 in February of 2022. The original completion date for the project was November 20th, 2022, which was the basis for the contract. An additional $38,000 was added in November of 2022 to cover the extension. Benesh is asking for another additional amount of $4,200.41. So I need a motion to accept or deny the supplemental agreement for CE&I services from Benesh in the amount not to exceed $4,200.41.
I make a motion that we accept the supplemental agreement for CE&I services from Benish in the amount not to exceed $4,241 as outlined and described in detail in our read-aheads.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to know what the $4,200 was for.
Well, we're paying for additional time, right? Because it went over.
Yeah, but I think these guys are
Yes.
these guys are here and they can better explain it than I can because they're the ones that had to do the work. So.
Okay.
Sure. I'm Wade Heim. I'm our construction group manager, and I was up here in front of you in November when I did the first supplemental. And at that time, in early November, when I approached Mike about our initial scope running out, we talked about how long we thought the contractor would take to finish the project, and we decided on 6 weeks. Mike made a comment that we probably ought to ask for 8 just to be safe, so that we're not coming back up here. And well, here I am. But basically, from that time, the contractor took another essentially 12 weeks to finish. Now, some of those weeks were partial weeks, due to weather, so they weren't working. But we did have to come up here when they were working. They shut down right after Christmas actually, and then came back in April and did the asphalt and the pavement marking. So essentially, we were here for 12 weeks. The hours we spent was the equivalent of 9, so which was above and beyond the 6 to 8 weeks that we had estimated. And so, yeah, that's what we're here for. Is just trying to get settled up on the time that we spent.
So since you went overtime, you're asking for more money. But if you had gotten it done a month sooner, would you reimburse the city that money?
We don't reimburse because you don't ever pay us, but yeah, we don't charge. I mean, it's time and materials, with a not to exceed amount. So,
okay.
Yeah, they would have got it done faster. We would have.
Yeah, but we ran into weather.
Mike, I'd like you to chime in here.
Okay.
I'd like to know your opinion on this. Is it?
This project did take longer than we anticipated. That is a factual statement.
So I guess my question is, do you think it's fair for them to come back? Do you have any heartburn of them coming back and asking for the additional $4,200?
I think the hours spent are what was spent. I mean, I'm very comfortable that is the hours. So they
To be
took
clear, it's an additional 2 times they've came back. Because the first was 38,000. Now they're asking for another 4, right?
4,200.
Yeah. So it's twice now. No offense to you guys, but
No, it's valid. I mean,
my wife comes to me asking for money. She gets it one time. No,
yeah. Well, I need
it's
to
an
get a new
estimate.
wife then, I guess.
But it's an estimate. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean-
when you're doing these projects, it's an estimate. And so the
No,
estimated
it's
low
it's
is
a
6.
bid.
I know,
And
but
a
it's-
bid is based on you give it to the lowest bidder. So when they bid it and they ask for more money, when they ask for the more money, would they have lost the bid based on the original bids submitted?
yeah.
in this one, it's a little bit different. It's more of a professional services proposal based upon an hourly rate. So, but
Yeah, and
So in your
we don't-
mind, it's fair, Mike.
in my mind, they did spend that time doing this work. But yes.
Can I ask you this? Earlier, he said that you recommended 8 weeks, and he went for 6 weeks on the.
No, actually, they did do 8 weeks.
Yeah, when we talked, we agreed on 6, and he said we better plan for 8 in case it takes longer than we think, and it did take longer than we thought, plus some time. So we tried to put a buffer in there so that we weren't coming back here, and we're basically at the mercy of the contractor. We're required to be out there if they're performing inspectable work. So it's not like we just drug our feet doing something. We don't like coming up here, asking for more money. I think, we did the DeSoto Road inspection project, and it turned out well. Like you mentioned, we didn't use all the fee. We just shut the contract off when we were done, and that's what we shoot for, so that we don't have to come up here. But sometimes
Let me ask you this: you've done other projects then?
we for the city.
Did the DeSoto Road?
We did DeSoto. We did what's the north-south road? I want to say Beardsley, but that's not the road.
Bittersweet.
Bittersweet.
Yep.
We did Bittersweet. We've done design projects, but
This
yeah,
first time you had to come back and ask for more, or did you have to come back and ask for more on the other projects also?
this is the first. Well, this is the second time I've come back for ask for more, but on this project. So this is the first project that I've come back to ask for more. I'm not sure on.
You don't know
design.
about the other projects?
I mean, they could probably speak for them, but we've been working with the city for a lot of years, and so, there's.
Never have, gentlemen? You remember?
Has this happened before on other projects? Let me ask you that. With this company?
So Rob Crewsmith finished. Again, sometimes we've had scope. So the previous item is an example of something that is design evolution. So I want to be very clear. I mean, we do come back before you because something changes, right? And we ask. So
Sure.
This is an example of that. Something changed. The schedule of our services got longer. So when we have a defined scope of work, say it's to build a mile of road of design, and once we have a scope of work, the burden is on us to come in on budget. If we go over budget, but the scope doesn't change, that's on Benish. If we decide to go another block, right, for whatever reason, that does mean sometimes we have to come back before you. I think your question was specific. Have we ever done it before? I believe there have probably been projects that something has changed, and we've agreed with staff, and we've presented a supplemental to do that work. So I just want to be clear. I think we probably have, but it's always something has to change. If it doesn't change, that's on us.
We're going to be asked about these questions, so we better be able to
Understood.
give
Absolutely.
a solid response to those questions.
For Mike, this was a cost share construction, 7th and Eisenhower.
Yes.
Are you going to go to the city of Leavenworth for the third of this 4,200?
That
Or
we've
is this
been
4,200 hour part?
No, that's a very good question. I've spoke to the city of Leavenworth. They're prepared to contribute their agreed upon percentage.
So 2/3, roughly 1,400 would be theirs, and about 2,800 would be ours, not 4,200.
That's correct. Although we have to amend the agreement to the full amount. But yeah, what will happen is they will invoice us. We will pay the invoice, and then we submit a request to the city of Leavenworth for them to pay their portion. And city of Leavenworth actually is very excited because they want to. This is the very last thing on this project, and this will close it out financially.
Good question, Dan.
So it cost us 4,200 up front, but we're going to get 1,400 from Leavenworth eventually as soon as they do their voting and all that.
Yes. That's a very good question. Yes.
Okay. More discussion.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Just go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Major,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
No.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you, guys. Are we on 8?
Number
We're
9.
on 9. 9. Okay. Sorry. Number 9, Construction Observation Services Contract, City Project 2021-04. Kansas state law requires full-time construction observation during all active phases of all sanitary sewer construction. Lansing has previously used Monarch Engineering of Olathe, Kansas for these services. Monarch Engineering has proposed a fee of $75 per hour and $50 a day travel expenses. Monarch Engineering has completed this work for Lansing on 2 recent sanitary sewer projects. W Relief Sewer and Ward 1 Rehab Project with great success. The city's purchasing policy section 4.4.1 allows the city administrator to waive the selection process for consultants who have worked on projects of a similar nature within the previous 18 months. So I need a motion to authorize staff to execute a contract for construction observation services in support of McIntyre Interceptor Sanitary Sewer Project.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
I have no idea. Is this the same hourly and travel that we've experienced on this company before?
His rate actually went up $5 an hour since the previous project. No, the travel's the same. And these are about half the rate that we would typically see from larger firms in the metro area.
So how long ago?
I'm sorry?
How long ago?
For fiscal year 2023, this is the current rates.
Okay.
And that will hold true for this project.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes.
Mr. Stednica?
Yes.
Item number 10, executive session, acquisition of real property. I need a motion to enter into executive session for the preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property pursuant to K.SA 75-4319B6 for 20 minutes, beginning at, this is a really cool cheat sheet. Let's do 8:17. Well, look,
Give us a minute to get out of here.
They gotta pack up their stuff.
okay, starting at 8:17 and ending at 8:37.
So move.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any discussion? Not, let's call the roll.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes,
Mr. Stednica?
Yes.
motion passes.
I'll make a motion, we return to open session.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes.
Mr. Stednica?
Yes.
Okay, reports, department heads. Tony.
We will be bidding the McIntyre project next month with a bid opening towards the 1st of November, and we should have it on the first meeting in November for approval and notice to proceed for that project. And one other item, I was down in Wichita last month for our annual KWEA conference, and the City of Lansing's treatment plant was awarded a Class 5 Treatment Plant of the Year award again for the 5th time, and our first safety award by the association. So kudos to the guys down there that put in all the work to make that happen. So,
Congratulations.
To include you, Tony.
yep, thank you.
All right. Any other department heads? Not city attorney.
Another report, Mayor.
City engineer.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Just Carrie. City engineer. City administrator.
I think you guys are going to be getting some invitations for the volunteer dinner coming up, so be sure to reach back out once you get those invitations. That should be a fun event. I was going to talk about that whole Army training thing now, but we touched on it a little bit earlier. So again, there is some type of training going on tomorrow for the Department of Defense. Maybe one thing to keep in mind, so we've been told it's not going to be as loud as the one on Sunday. I hope that's the case, but there is a Department of Defense training tomorrow. So. And then another thing, I've been having some really positive discussions with the new superintendent for the school district, and we were talking about ways to improve pedestrian access for the schools. So we had spoken about applying for a grant to the state to do a sidewalk from Lansing High School to West Mary Street, and that's something we're still kind of working out the details with the school district, but it's looking like we are going to apply for a grant, and hopefully we can kind of hammer out an agreement on who pays for what and everything. One thing to keep in mind, I mean, a sidewalk or trail from the
That is awesome.
Well, it's a super competitive grant, and
Sure.
it's possible a lot of the other people applying might be doing traffic-related things, and ours is, it's a multi-use trail, so it's going to be competitive. But the other thing to keep in mind too, something like that from the high school to West Mary Street, that's over a mile, so that would be a very long trail. So even with the state participation, if we were fortunate to receive the grant, I mean, our our share would still be probably six figures. So, I mean, it'd be a chunk of change. But that is something I've been having communications with the superintendent about. Like I said, I think we both feel good about it. We're really fortunate. Representative Bueller wrote us a really nice letter of support, had really positive comments from Senator Pittman as well. So that's something we'll keep our fingers crossed on. And like I said, that'd be a great way to improve pedestrian access from West Mary Street to Lansing High School. So that's all I have.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Who should we start with tonight?
Mr. Gardner.
First of all, Mr. Clemens, thank you for the emails. I did do the survey, but I haven't quite made it to the 195-page transportation study yet. I need to address a couple things from last week or last meeting that I had already spoken. But Gene Kirby had mentioned that budget sessions and budget resolutions are the result of a lot of people, and I was on the council back then when you had a lot of things and hoping for one or two, and it is a lot more streamlined, a lot more organized, and a lot of it has to do with people like Chief and Tony and Ken back there, and Jason and people that have been around here for a long time. They know what to ask for and how to address issues. And also, Terry, you brought up the deal about how the council works together, and we're not. Everybody has a party affiliation, but when they're up here, there's only one party, and that's Lansing, the financial stability and the future growth of it. So hopefully that will continue. The forum last night, I appreciated it, and Marcus, you did a real good job, even though you weren't opposed. You did a lot of good things for the city, and good luck with you. You running for a school board? Good luck with that. So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Marcus.
Yes, sir. Tonight's agenda was long, but it was really good. And Dan and team, fellow council members, Gary, a lot of great questions were asked tonight. And just to beat that drum, we do get along great. We get a lot of things done. And sometimes we go into a lot more detail, a lot more questions. Tonight it was Mike's turn, bringing folks back for additional funds. Most of the time it's Tony. God bless you, Tony. We love you. But I can't thank my fellow elected officials up here with me. How great it is to work with you all and to get all these things done. And Tim, last night I gave you and Terry and Beth and the entire team and our chief, our chief of police, Chief Wayman, and so forth, all your staff, all the city administrative leaders. I kept highlighting last night in questions of what we're doing and how we're engaging with our state elected officials and what we're doing for public safety and these sidewalks and how to get to the library and so forth. So, and I did a lot of shout out on inviting people to come to our city council meetings. I think a lot of people will get a lot of more information if they just come and listen and engage in the future. So hopefully we'll get the word and we'll keep beating that drum. So thank you for all you do. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Marcus. Jesse.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the people putting on the forums lately, the election. Saturday, I attended the League of Women Voters event down here at the church. It was a pretty good turnout, so I appreciate them putting that on. Monday, I did a Zoom interview with Citizens for the Good Governance. I'm not familiar with them at all, but I did an interview with them. And last night, we had the Leavenworth Lansing Chamber of Commerce forum at the middle school, which was a great turnout, a lot of great questions, and a lot of great discussion. But I appreciate everything everybody's doing this election year. Also, I'd like to say thank you to Tim and Chief. You know, I sent Tim a text when all that noise was going on Sunday, and I didn't expect a response. It was Sunday. You know, everybody, like he said earlier, everybody's watching Chiefs game. You know, and pretty soon Chief Wayman calls me to discuss what's going on. I just appreciate you guys going out of your way to, you know, try to explain things to people. So thank you. And I'd like to wish Gene to get well soon. You know, he had surgery, so I just hope he gets to feeling better very quickly. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Well, as all the council members and the mayor got a number of emails from me. The transportation study was turned in, it's final. Tim, it's broad dissemination, whoever you want to provide it to. All of the governing bodies involved, which is all the cities in Leavenworth County, unanimously approved it. So what we plan on doing from the Port Authority is using that to try to get some MARC monies and some other state and federal. And the Highway 5 corridor was the top one. So we'll be pushing to get more industry in here, and you'll be hearing some more about it from there.
All right.
That's it, Smith.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Ditto on what everybody said. Tony, good job tonight. I also will piggyback on the fact that when I email or I have a question, I always get a prompt answer, a prompt response, and maybe not always the answer I wanted, but you know, at least I'm told what's going on, so I never feel like I'm in the dark. And the communication, I think, among the council and city has just been very positive, and I appreciate that. That's all I have. And Don?
Congratulations to Tony and his crew down there for the awards, especially that repeated one there. That's a big one, I know. And with that, I move to adjourn.
Second. Motion is second to adjourn. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Major?
Yes.
Mr. Garvey?
Yes.
Mr. Clemens?
Yes.
Mr. Brungard?
Yes.
Mr. Stednica?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. Thanks, gentlemen.